Hello. How are you guys doing? What's up? What is up? Restream is me. When it says restream, that's me saying hello. I don't know why it doesn't just say me, but it says restream. So I'm trying, it seemed to go pretty well last time when I streamed through Restream on their online platform. Hello, DOS Boot. Hello, Critical Cripple. Critical Cripple was first. Woof. Good boy. I guess you're barking. Do I pet you on it? Oh my goodness. Hey, Hemp Hill. H Hemp Hill. What's going on? So I really like this format. Hey, Nether. How you doing? I didn't set up like the stream in advance on YouTube. I'll just be honest, because I was just tired this week. Little bit tired and a little bit lazy, but that's all right. That's all right. It's been a busy week. Listening while driving to work. Sweet. Good to have you guys here. Nether and Hemp Hill and DOS Boot and not first, but always here. That's right. That's right. And Critical Cripple. Everybody's hanging out. I don't expect a lot of people to show up because this is only my second stream in 4 months. So, and I spoke about why last time. Explore the world from A to Z. Discover Sciate. Maybe I'm saying that wrong. It would be like that thing you do, that movie where it was supposed to be The Wonders, but it was spelled Oneders. And so everybody was introducing them as the Oneaters. Tom Hanks, National Treasure. Science and technology. It's fun, you'll see. Yes, Sinister Porpoise. How are you doing? Hello, Wayne Terry from Canterbury, England. I have not been to the UK in a couple years now, probably like 3. And I have really dear friends there, over there across the pond. I've been watching a lot of, I think it's Russell. Is it Russell Kane? He's a British comedian, and I was watching a lot of his little shorts on Facebook. He would post like things that he would say, from his living room. I think he would just post random stuff. He's pretty funny, and he talked about British folks versus American folks, and it was pretty funny how the British have like 2 settings and there's like no in between. There's like super don't look at me, super repressed, walking around and stuff, and then on the weekend they just get off their tits, I believe is what he said, when they drink a lot and then they smash up things. But there's like no middle, and they don't talk to each other. And Americans it's like they have a wildly different, they talk to everybody. So oh goodness. Hemp Hill says, would like to be able to travel anywhere outside the US soon. That would be nice. The last place I went to overseas was the Netherlands, and that was to hang out with Doc Savage, who is an amazing human, by the way. I will always say lovely things about Doc Savage. If you ever visit Germany, I'll get you some real beer to drink, says Nether. I don't drink beer, but I do have a large appreciation for the food that is provided by our good German folks out there in the Europes. Oh my goodness. Spatzel. My God. Spatzel is amazing. I'm probably not even saying it correctly, but it is so good. That's so good. I wish I could drink beer. It tastes really strange to me. And it's pretty gross what it tastes like to me. It tastes like when I get sick. So it's very hard for me to drink beer. I'm messed up. Hi, Sandy. How you doing today? So I haven't planned anything major. Worst is best. Yes. There's got to be one for me. I've been able to tolerate a shandy. I do like a good cider though. I can do a cider. We have a kind of a beer garden out here, and they have so many beers available, you know. And I've tried some, this is super fruity beer. I'm like, but does it have hops in it? Because if it has any kind of hoppy flavor, that's going to taste like puke to me. So I appreciate that. If I'm out the way of Germany, we'll hang, man. It's cool. Oh my goodness. So it seems, golly. So last night I had night terrors. Those are fun, aren't they? I had night terrors back to back, which was pretty awful. And then I had to sit up for a couple of hours because my nightmare was on loop. And so I was just going to keep having night terrors if I tried to go back to sleep. So I stayed up for a few hours. And then I finally got back to sleep. Woke up again about an hour later. And then just kind of sat there because I started to have another weird dream. My dreams are very freaking vivid. Most of the time I lucid dream. So even if I have a nightmare, I know that I'm asleep and I can navigate my way through it and go like, I'm gonna dream in a blowtorch. And then I can get rid of all of the bad things that are happening. So usually that works for me, but the night terrors, when I have night terrors or if I have sleep paralysis, which is also a thing that I have, it is really hard for me to lucid dream, and it's very hard for me to control those dreams. But most of the time I can, so it's not really a problem. But my dreams are super freaking vivid. So I want to tell you guys about the second dream that I had. The first one was like haunted house weird stuff, and I couldn't escape the house. The second dream apparently had this really large mansion somehow. Somebody gave this to me because I know I don't have enough money to afford it. So I had this really large mansion that had all of these different water features inside and outside of it. And then I started to have a party. I had a party and I invited a lot of people over. And I had a lot of costumes. And so we all just dressed up. There were all kinds of diversity in this party. Lots of different people. LGBTQ plus friendly. Lots of drag queens were putting on shows. It was amazing. This party was lit, man. And then I'm like, okay, well, let's go swimming outside in the many different water features that I have. I have a moat around my house. And it's really cool. And so apparently my property was attached to a lot of the city. And so it was really pretty view. I just had moved into this giant mansion, which I would never do because I can't imagine being in a house that big. It would just freak me out all the time. So then I walked outside, was in my bathing suit, had a towel on, and we ended up blending in with the general population, and it was weird. And then come to find out, my house had hidden stairways, like literally see-through stairways, and you had to have a certain code in order to activate them. And then you could go and go back to your house. And it was there was a stairway in the mall. There was a stairway over by a cafe. It was like some kind of interdimensional weirdness. But if you messed up, you got plunged into this underworld where where basically all the poor people went because they couldn't afford health care. See, now we're getting into like the social aspects of this weird dream that I was having. So you had this underworld where poor people could opt to go and pretty much just live forever without having to worry about going hungry or getting sick or anything like that. But it was set up like a video game. You were pretty much a character in a video game. And so the rich people could come down and do things like shoot you, but you would regenerate, but it was still painful. So it was kind of like Westworld, but not really. And then it was also, oh God, there's been a lot of movies like that, but it was so strange. And, poor people opted for that so they wouldn't starve to death and die. They could just live forever in this video game as an option. So, so my goodness, that was my dream. And somehow I messed up and entered the wrong code and ended up in the video game. And so I had to figure out how to survive down there without getting shot constantly. So I managed to change my form to look like a princess from India or something like that. So I could infiltrate one of the worlds and be like a queen. And then I had to figure out like the mechanisms of the game to see if I could take it down. So yeah, so that was my dream. It was so weird. But at least I was lucid dreaming and knew I was in a dream and I could manipulate things. And I'm like, okay, well, what happens if I do this over here? And apparently there was one thing where you had one of the weapons, get this, one of the weapons would expel like a metal ball, like a cannon. But I think it was called the pearl gun, I think is what it was called. It was called a pearl gun. And somebody said, don't shoot that. That thing will fly everywhere. It'll go through the wall and everything. So what happens is with this pearl gun, when you shot it, it would hit a wall. Or if it hit a person, if you caught it, you were fine. If you managed to catch the projectile, the round metal ball, if you managed to catch it, you were fine. And then you could throw it at whoever you wanted to. And if they didn't catch it, it was like really bad dodgeball. Then they would just die or de-res, if we're going to go like the Tron terms. They'd regenerate somewhere else and have to start over or whatever. So I shot the pearl gun because I'm like, what is this thing? It looked like a steampunk gun and it had a really nice handle. And I shot it and it started bouncing off the walls. But after it bounced a couple of times, it got bigger. And sometimes it would break off into multiple balls. And when they bounced off of different things, they got bigger. And so it was like ricocheting all over the place like a freaking cartoon. So that was a great way to destroy stuff, I found. So I kept some of those balls when I captured them so I could throw them later, and wreck equipment. Because viva la resistance, So yeah, those are the kind of dreams I have. So I was like, I might be too tired to do a show today because I've been taking down the Matrix of sorts or something. It's freaking weird. Oh my goodness. Sounds like reality to me, except regeneration. Yes, Sandy, it does, doesn't it? ScientistMel, have you ever had a sleep study for sleep apnea? I haven't, DOS boot. But my I have like a Fitbit watch that I wear to bed sometimes, and it checks my heart rate variability as well as my breathing rates and stuff like that. That all seems to be okay for the most part. Hemp Hill says, I dreamed I was in land controlled by an insane dictator and we were slowly being killed off. Wait, was that a dream? The Sinister Porpoise says, I move in my sleep and can't experience sleep paralysis as a result. Oh, it's not fun at all. It's not fun at all. But once I figured out, or I learned that it was sleep paralysis, I have it a lot less now. Sandy says, I dreamed my dog bit me night before last. Oh, wait, that wasn't a dream. Never mind. Oh, you think, and she also thinks I need a vacation to the North Carolina mountains where you have a place to stay for free and no one can see you when the green curtains are pulled. Grins. Hello, is it Dave Spirals or Dav Spirals? Hello. In Jen's little corner, what's up? And B, not just B. No, just B. Sorry. B, no, just B. How are you guys doing? I was just telling the story of my nightmares last night. I really should just write these all down because See, I can't talk or grammar today. I cannot grammar today. My grammar sometimes is absolutely horrible. But I really should write down all of these crazy dreams that I have because it sounds like I could have a good series of like Philip K. Dick novels or something that sounds out of Altered Carbon or Twilight Zone episodes. Oh my goodness. So yeah, my dreams, and people are like, have you ever done any psychedelics? No, I don't need to. I just need to go to sleep at night. And it gets weird enough for me there, man. I don't do drugs. I am drugs. That was Salvador Dali. Now, I am known to partake in adult beverages from time to time. And then I get oddly focused. It's weird. Let's see. I'll pull up the National Science Foundation. I was trying to find something new there with some of the stuff that they do. And we had covered some of the potential stuff last time. Maybe I don't. Or maybe that's why I don't have such vivid dreams now. Reality is so close that I don't need to. I fully indulge in the adult beverages. I've been known to do that, yes. But, I do cut back as needed, And I've been working out, guys. I've been going to the gym. So I heard all the time now. Robert Reed, RC Reed on Twitter. He's been a trainer that I've had before a couple of times. So I'm giving a shout out to Robert. During the pandemic, he made me tired. Like Robert Reed, RC Reed on Twitter, will wear you out. I mean, that's his whole job. He's been working in fitness for like 20 years. And so I'll still send him some of my workouts. And he's like, okay, so this is what you got to do. He'll analyze my data because sometimes I put my data on Twitter and he'll look at my workouts and he goes, I don't quite understand the focus of this with what you're doing here with your gym. Did your gym give you? I was like, no, I made it up myself. And he goes, okay, so this is what you need to do. And he's very nice about it. It's him going, you need to be a bit more efficient in your working out. And I'm like, I did this in 2016 and it was great. And he's like, you can do better. You can do better than this. So he's awesome. Robert C. Reed, RC Reed on Twitter if you need a trainer. He does do remote training, and let me tell you, I have equipment in my house, but I haven't had the mental capacity to be able to like do it or the energy. And now that I feel like I do, I've been exercising more. And he wore me out. It was like, okay, now you're going to do this. I'm like, I think I might puke. And he goes, well, don't do that. All right, let's take a break for a minute. All right, what's your heart rate say? Okay, now we're going to get up and do this now. I'm like, okay. He'll push you, but he won't push you too far. So that's cool. All right. So let's have a look. Let's have a look at what's going on. So this is what I got from the National Science Foundation. We got this going on here. So this is the latest in science news. And this is what I use the National Science Foundation, nsf.gov/news. I'll copy and paste this in the chat here. So you too can go and check it out from time to time. This is all National Science Foundation funded projects, and so they post that information here. Sometimes when it's published, it's against a freaking paywall, which is really, really irritating. But you know, you have to just, if you get the scientists' names and you want to read that paper, just email them. Their email is probably very easily found because usually they're connected to some kind of academia, university, institution, something like that. It's not difficult to find them. Or you can check ResearchGate. That's another place. Sometimes they post their papers there. All righty. So we've got single gene boosts climate resilience, yield, and carbon capture in crops. Huh. And this is where people would scream, GMOs, GMOs, genetically modified organisms. All of your farm food, your crops that you eat, have been genetically modified since the history of agriculture. It's just now we do it in a lab to make the process go faster, but it doesn't really do anything to you. It's still corn. It's still all the same stuff. But here's the problem with climate change being the way that it is now. Let me see. I have buttons that I haven't used yet. How's this one go? Oh, that one doesn't work, does it? That's terrible. What about this? Yeah, that doesn't work either. I'm playing with buttons now. This is not good. All right, what about this? Okay, that works. I like that one. That one works for now. Because you can see me, but then you can't see the screen. Never mind. We're going to do it this way. I just gave everybody seasickness. All right. So here, the problem that we're dealing with is the fact of, have you seen the weather? Have you seen the climate? Everything's changing. We're having more droughts. We're having more floods. We're having all kinds of other crazy stuff, hurricanes and tornadoes and stuff like that. And one of the things that we're going to have to do is modify our crops to be able to withstand all of this funky climate change, including the droughts and being able to make, capture maybe some of the CO2 in our atmosphere. So if we can modify plants, which, by the way, it would be easier to genetically modify plants to absorb more carbon dioxide than it would be to try to replicate photosynthesis. Scientists have been trying to replicate photosynthesis forever. And it's like, we can't do it as well as plants. We can't do it as well as plants. We've already got something that takes CO2 out of the atmosphere. So it makes sense that science is moving in the direction of, can we get it to capture more CO2? What's the gene associated with the photosynthesis in a particular plant? Let's play around with that and see if we can get it to increase it. So your crops are always genetically modified anyway. So let me see what we got in the chat really quick. Oh, it's not popped up now because I erase it when I turn it off. Okay, so we've got Nether says, stunning how people will get more afraid now that we do actually know what we are doing than they ever were when we had no clue and just messed around. So that they thought that we were just messing around. We didn't know what we were doing, but we do know what we're doing. And we write it down and we try to do better each time. And when we're wrong, we were like, hey, this is a better option. That's another thing people don't get. There's so much hate for Dr. Fauci. First he said, do this, and then he said, do that, because we got more information. When we get more information, we modify what's happening. Your doctors do that all the time. When you get more information, particularly if you have a chronic illness of some sort, or people who have depression or any other kind of anxiety. I have crippling anxiety. I'm on medication. And fortunately, what I'm on worked for me almost right away. That's not the case for a lot of people, and particularly with people with chronic pain or in some kind of chronic illness. It requires trying out stuff until you figure out what works. And when your doctors figure out what works, that's what they do. They're like, okay, we knew this one didn't work, so we're going to do that. So scientists get a lot of flack for that. And some doctors get flack for that. Well, the doctors haven't figured out, but this is why you also get multiple opinions. Also with scientists, you get multiple opinions. What's the general consensus? There's a whole review board just for doctors. Did they do what they were supposed to do? So it's not, climate science. Again, the more we learn, the more we know, the better we're equipped to handle these changes, because we're in trouble. It's almost like science keeps changing. Yes, it does. It does keep changing, and that's all right. Atomic theory is a perfect example of that. And sometimes medications don't work. You're right. Halcyon, hemp pill, science keeps changing. Halcyon, sometimes medications don't work. You're right. And sometimes people don't need medication. Sometimes they need, talk therapy, with a therapist. And you can rewire your brain just by doing different things to try to turn off certain panic responses. So I have a mixture of that for me as I need it, because of anxiety associated with childhood, growing up and stuff, whatever. Hey, Kitty, how you doing? We are talking about climate change. So the single gene boosts climate resilience, yield, and carbon capture in crops. Oh, Oak Ridge National Laboratory. ORISE. I actually considered applying for different programs there. If you're not familiar with ORISE, and if you are involved, if you're an undergrad in science or a graduate student, they have internships there that kind of, that help you prepare for a job in science. And they're really great, and possibly, even stay on there. And they have a wide range of jobs, whether it's climate science or diseases. You can do the CDC stuff. You can do climate change. You can do water quality. You can do environmental stuff. You can do animal biology stuff. It's just huge amounts of opportunities there. Hey, Tamara, how you doing? So it's, really great institute there. So this is what they have to say. Scientists at Oak Ridge National Laboratory have discovered a single gene that simultaneously boosts plant growth and tolerance for stresses such as drought and salt, all while tackling the root cause of climate change by enabling plants to pull more carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. Woohoo! So they're essentially found a gene that helps remove more carbon dioxide from the atmosphere and be able to have a plant withstand harsh conditions so it doesn't die. That's fantastic. As climate change triggers more frequent and longer lasting droughts, water scarcity concerns are escalating. Only about 3% of the world's water is fresh water. It's mostly ocean. And we know not to drink that. You don't want to drink ocean water. That's a great way to die really fast, horribly, with all kinds of fluids coming out of both ends. So there you go. Coffee is ready. Mine is iced today in my Wonder Woman mug. Well, this is not really. It's a travel coffee mug. I guess it's a coffee mug, yeah. So only 3% of the world's water is fresh water. And a lot of it's frozen in ice or otherwise unavailable for use. Or it's like super flooding everywhere and then it washes away the freaking plants unless they have a good solid foundation. Agriculture is the biggest freshwater consumer worldwide, which emphasizes the need for hardier plants that can withstand drier conditions. This is what I'm talking about, guys. We're going to need to make these crops that we eat super hardy. They're going to have to be able to withstand drought conditions because people need water for my coffee, right? We need water too. Our animals need water, our pets need water, we need water to shower, we need water. And so with the water crisis, I mean, Nevada's had a water crisis for a very long time. It's the middle of the freaking desert. So let me hide that. I didn't realize I could hide that. Okay. I'm learning new buttons, guys. So the water crisis is already a thing. But we need to make our plants strong, like hardier. And I've been preaching this for years. People are not going to mind GMOs if the cost of food rises because of all the water that they have to pay for, and in order to get those plants to stick around. And that's where we've got to have the conversation about climate change. It's going to be expensive for people to feed their families. Water's going to be expensive. Stuff is going to get very, very costly. And so we need legislation to try to help reduce our CO2 emissions and funnel money into sustainability. The palm oil industry is particularly awful with this. If you've not checked out that information, palm oil is in pretty much everything. So it's important to shift to manufacturers that use sustainable palm oil. I'll talk about that in a minute, but let's hear about the happy news. Let me catch up on the chat. That is incredible news, Tamara. Isn't it nice? And Halcyon says, on climate issues, a focus on the loss of biodiversity is of interest to me. It's an excellent place to wake people up on these issues. Eric Shivian and Edward O. Wilson are wonderful. Okay, I'll have to check that out. Let's see. Wonder Woman mug is so you. Well, thank you. I really like this one. It's easy to clean. Sometimes, they're not built very well. And then, I used to have some plastic ones and it had really cool Wonder Woman stuff on the inside. And then if you wash it, water gets in and it ruins it, and then it smells funny. And I'm just like, I don't like that. Tamara says, you're right. As I asked my partner not to go to our home in Greece last year, the ocean is great for going into for your body, not to drink. And Hemp Hill says, or use cultivation of multiple plants as in the Three Sisters method. Well, yes. I should get a Loki mug. That's so me. I love Loki. I love that TV show. I'll talk about that in a minute. It's pretty cool stuff going on there. Stanley makes the best travel mugs, totally spill free. That's awesome. All right. So with the aim of engineering more productive and drought-tolerant bioenergy crops, ORISE, or the Oak Ridge National Laboratory, scientists have been studying the mechanisms that allow desert plants such as agave and kalanchoe, I guess. Kalanchoe. I don't say words right sometimes. To thrive in dry conditions. So they're studying desert plants and saying, how can we apply this to agricultural plants? How can we apply this to our food? Desert plants use a form of photosynthesis known as chrysolacean acid metabolism, or CAM, to hold carbon dioxide in their cells overnight to be turned into sugars in the daylight hours. To survive extreme desert temperatures, CAM plants open their stomata, or leaf pores, to capture carbon dioxide only during the night and keep them closed during the heat of day to avoid water loss. Think I remember learning about something like that when I was taking biology in college, but, you know, I only really know the mechanisms of photosynthesis, not so much of what goes on with the leaves, you know. All right, so these U.S. National Science Foundation funded scientists identified the key genes for CAM photosynthesis in 2017 using the laboratory's Titan supercomputer. That's cool. Building on that study, researchers honed in on a novel variant of an important enzyme and found that it triggers two pathways simultaneously, one for carbon fixation and plant growth, and another that produces proline, a key amino acid known to increase stress tolerance. The results are published in Cells. That's cool. So they found the gene that makes an enzyme that triggers not only carbon fixation, which means soaking up the carbon dioxide, but also produces an amino acid that's necessary to help plants survive stressful environmental conditions. How cool is that? So it is unusual to find that a single genetic modification can have multiple benefits, said Dr. Yang, a plant systems and synthetic biologist who led the study. I'm assuming Dr. Zhaohan Yang. We are seeing more examples of this phenomenon where a single gene acts as a master regulator that turns on many other genes, both upstream and downstream from it. Now, I'm going to call out Zhaohan Yang. We already know most of the time, genes do not perform just one function. We already know that. That's why we're very careful with gene modification with people until we understand exactly, you know, what each gene does. We don't go around messing with genes in that regard. It usually has multiple functions, and that's the thing that escapes us sometimes, particularly when we get into CRISPR and stuff like that. And then you got to consider gene modification body-wide in an adult. Nina, why are you down under my desk? Nina has decided to come out and play. Come on. Come on. She has decided to come and be on the show. I don't make her come over here. She has to want to. So we'll have a doggo moment in a second. So this is pretty cool. But it's good that they found that this one gene does both of those things. So that means we could work towards genetically modifying agricultural plants to be able to capture more carbon dioxide at night, reducing the water loss so it won't need water so much during the day. And it also provides an amino acid to allow the plant to survive certain stressors. So how cool is that? Okay, let me see. I'll change my camera so you guys can check out Neen and what she's doing. Wait, that's not it. That's my desk cam. So that was my desk cam, not my Nina cam. So if I was like drawing out, writing out stuff, that would be funny. There we go. So there's Neen hanging out, doing her thing. Just chilling. Neen. You guys saw my polka dot jammy pants. It doesn't matter. It's fine. I like my polka dot jammy pants. Okay. And here we go. Let me get back. Here we go. Now let me see where we're at in the chat. Yay! Sharing science with people. Tamara says, my sister-in-law is a biochemist, has run a lab for over 50 plus years. A group of them brought a cure ivermectin tablets, USP 3 milligrams by Edenbridge to the White House. It was denied. We have a box though. A cure for, oh, are you talking about ivermectin? That's supposed to be a treatment for COVID-19. C3 and C4 photosynthesis plants. There you go, Nether. Oh my goodness. So good news, everyone. Good news on that. We can have a look at the COVID. Yes. Oh, okay. Yeah, I know that they were looking in ivermectin as a potential treatment for COVID. 20 tabs? Okay. Oh, that's how many you have. I'm sorry. It looks like can I actually view the full text or is it behind a paywall? We can view the full text, guys. So here's the full text here. If you want to check it out. It's a hefty, these are usually hefty reads. But you can't, anytime you read a paper like this, you cannot read it like a magazine article. You cannot read it like a magazine article. It's good news, everyone. Well, good news about the photosynthesis stuff. Excuse me. So I posted the link to it. But it goes into detail about the mechanisms associated with the CAM or the CAM gene, well, the CAM photosynthesis. They have their data. Okay, so they did the relative expression of the gene. So that's what they were looking for. So that's one of those things, you can have the gene, but you also need it to be expressed. And so that will probably be the next step, is how do they get that gene to be expressed? Okay. So they looked for a salt tolerance if there was like particularly salty solutions. This is kind of neat. And they have a picture of, what are we looking at? Okay, so they've got phosphoenol pyruvate substrate. AEPEPC1 binds to, let me show you what I got here. This is a pretty neat picture. So we can actually map the shape of proteins. Let me turn off the chat for a second so you guys can see this. This is the actual shape of the PEP substrate. AAPEPC1 structure selected from 200 NS molecular dynamics MD simulation. I used to have to build proteins like this in computational chemistry, and how they put them together for this. First of all, if you know the genetic code, then you can just plug it in to any type of software. Well, not any type. It's certain types of software. I used MOE, M-O-E, and that's molecular orbital environment or something. I just called it MOE. I never remember the O word in it. But if you have the gene sequence, then that tells you your amino acid structure. You can plug it into some software, and it will put together what the protein looks like. And then you can figure out which portion of that protein is the active site, where all of the action happens. So I don't think people realize how incredibly cool this sort of thing is, because if you learn the genetic sequence of a particular protein, whether it's enzyme, substrate, you can plug it in to different types of software and get its shape even before you can get a crystal structure. Crystal structures are the actual, photographed structure of the protein, which you do usually through X-ray crystallography. You blast it with some X-rays, and it's just like, there it is. Look, here's the shape. But that's a very ticky instrument. And if you're not careful, you just destroy your sample more often than not. But it's okay. X-ray crystallography. Thank you, Rosalind Franklin. That's what she was using, X-ray crystallography, to try to essentially confirm the shape of genetic code. Before Watson and Crick decided to look at her stuff and steal it. She wasn't listed as an author on the paper, but she was given a little nod. Hey, we took Rosalind Franklin's stuff in the paper, and Watson and Crick got the Nobel Prize for science in, the structure of DNA. Jerks. And Rosalind might have gotten it, but she had passed away from cancer from not taking necessary precautions from X-rays. It happens. It's awful. But yeah. So when you go through and read a paper like this, fine. The things that I do, and I haven't talked about how to read a paper in a while. Let me blow this up. The things that I do is usually they have keywords in here. There they are. That's going to be stuff that you're going to need to know. So it's important to just do a quick little looky-loo and look those up in like online. You're not going to find it in a dictionary unless it includes scientific terminology. Look it up online and kind of see what those mean. See, okay, this is what it's about. Most of the time when you see letters like this that are all capitalized and italicized, it's going to deal with some kind of protein or enzyme, particularly if it's a biological type of paper. Hello, Mr. Shadow Kitty. You can, in the introduction, what I would do next is after you look at those words and I'm like, okay, this is stuff that I'm going to need to have on hand, or at least look it up and kind of see what it is. Then you're going to go through, and I usually, read the abstract and ask, okay, what is this paper about? First of all, what is this paper about? Are there words here that I don't understand? Because I tell you, a lot of grad school was me reading papers and looking up what words were. So, are there words here that I don't understand? Write them down or look them up, on your computer. However, whatever choice that you want. And 3, what did they figure out? What was their conclusion? Those are the main points that you're going to need to pay attention to. Usually in the introduction, they're I use that most, maybe most isn't the best word, depending on the journal. If it's a reputable journal like Cells is pretty reputable. They're going to go through and describe the importance of the research and why it matters. So this is really good if you need a bit of a background on what is this, what are they doing? Why is this important? If you're trying to just get general knowledge about the paper, you really don't need to worry too much about materials and methods. That's something you can check out a bit later. You go to the results and you go through T-blast search against. Okay. So this would be something for me. I'll be like, what's a T-blast in search? I'm not certain what that is. I'll go, okay, well, maybe it was explained up here, T-blast in. And if I don't want to dig through all of that, then I can go through and look it up on the internet, because I've done that. What is T-blast in? And then you go and you find it. Pretty cool pictures. C3 type, C4 type, root type, and cam type. And so now they're talking about all of the different plants that they had in this study, which is kind of cool. They used rice, corn, wheat, sugarcane, sorghum, foxtail millet, and orchids. So it's like, I'm not going to try to pronounce some of these. I guess sorghum bicolor, Z-maize, Oryza sativa. That sounds cool. Oryza sativa. It's some rice that you eat. Oryza sativa. Isn't that so neat? It means the rice that you get from your food. I guess I could make a whole song about Oryza sativa. It sounds like Hakuna Matata, man. It really does. Oryza sativa. It's MSG free. Oryza sativa. No extra salt for me. It's the yummy types of rice that I put in my belly. It's all quality. Full grain rice. What would be like? What would go with that? Full grain rice. What's a good word of that? You guys, I'm writing a science song. Hey, nerdy rodent, what's up? I see you there. You like sativas? Is it sativas or sativas? Is it like saliva? Saliva. What if we started calling saliva saliva? These are the questions that happen in my brain sometimes. And I'm just like, sativa, sativa, saliva, saliva, tomato, tomato. Is that a thing? Is that a thing? Sativa, sativa. Did I say hi to Mr. Shadow Kitty? I can't remember. Sativa. Okay, sativa. Sativa. So, yes, you can go through and have a look at that. Oh, look, they even had little pictures. They added pictures. What are we looking at here? Which plant is this? Transgenic tobacco plants. Even got into tobacco. It can drive you crazy. I suppose so. Sativa. Oh boy, what'd they do here? So they looked at the ones that had the stress. This is the overexpressing tobacco plants under salt stress. Okay. So they had some that were overexpressing the gene and some that weren't expressing it at all. So that's kind of cool to show, hey, these tobacco plants survived. They did all right when we were messing with them. 15 days without watering, 3 days after rewatering. Wow. Wild type, I'm guessing, versus they're genetically modified. Did they actually genetically modify these plants? Transgenic lines, they did. They've already started screwing around with the genes, man. How cool is that? I hadn't read that far in the paper. So they actually started transgenic lines. Indica couch. Indica is good too, to be honest. Oh my goodness. So they've started dicking around with it's probably not appropriate that I said that. Oh boy, transgenic lines versus wild type. So what they're seeing is positive progress that, you know, they can go 2 weeks, over 2 weeks without watering. And when they re-water them, they just bounce right back. They're like, hey, we're here. Isn't this awesome? That's really good news, man. I'm so excited about this paper. This is cool. It's really nice that they have like this option here on the side. Man, cool stuff. I like a good table. And this is pretty much the mechanism. So some of you are probably going, just, you know, this is a little bit triggery for me, guys, because I'm remembering organic. Well, actually, this is biochem right here coming out at me and going, do you remember when you cried? And I'm like, yes, I do, brain. Thank you. I remember the crying semester, just like every other undergrad who's had to take biochemistry at the same time as genetics and physics. And that was in doing genetics research and labs. That was the crying semester. I'm not even ashamed to admit that. I cried. That was my C semester. C's get degrees, man. And that does not keep you from grad school. Academic perfection is a lie. I'm just saying that. So they went through and they've mapped out the mechanism for this. So we got our little enzyme that's going on, the CBB process. See, I didn't look up what those meant. See, then I get to the pretty graph like this that instills a little bit of some panic attack in me. And I'm like, CBB cycle. I'm like, okay, I don't know what the CBB is right off. Well, hold on. We're doing glucose and CO2. So what we're doing here is we're capturing CO2 and turning it into glucose. So that's what we're looking at. I just don't recognize this acronym here right off. But we're doing the pyruvate glucose thing. So that's what we got going on here. Malic acid, malate, all of that has to do with the production of pyruvate, which is what we break down glucose to make pyruvate in cellular respiration. Well, in photosynthesis, takes pyruvate, turns it into glucose. It's like the other way around. All right, so here we got carbon dioxide mixing with water, and we end up with hydrogen ions. See, this is the other thing when it comes to hydrogen fuel cells. Getting a source of hydrogen is the super important thing in order for us to run hydrogen fuel cells. Then we got proline glutamate. So this is like the breakdown of all of it. Carbonic anhydrase, oxaloacetate, malate dehydrogenase. Yeah, this is like biochem stuff. Woo! Man. Biochem stuff, biochemistry. A friend of mine teaches biochem and organic. I'm happy she does that. I mean, I guess I could technically teach biochem and organic, but I don't know that I really want to. We have an organic teacher at the college, and if they needed me to teach organic, I could, but that would require me to kind of refresh on that. But there you go. That is that really cool paper. So they've been messing around with the genetics on stuff already and finding some pretty good results. How exciting is that? And that was just the first paper we looked at. Woo! Yay, science. Let's have a look at another one of these. Yes, I love it when people do things with stuff as well. And then also do stuff with things. It's nice that there's that good overlap between the two. I got C's in biochem too. My brain won't hold on to complex structures. I can tell you what they are if you show me a pic, but I can't spew out a pic if you give me the name. You know, there are some things that I can remember because I've had to drill it in my head for so long. And that's kind of where we get into the, experts of certain things. How can they know all this stuff? Because they talk about it all the time. They study the things all the time. They're involved in the things all the time. They're the ones, that's their focus. But if, like Doc Savage, his thing is immunology. His thing is vaccines. His thing is all about the mechanisms associated with developing an immune response to a thing. And so he goes through and he's an expert in his field because of the fact that, I mean, that's what he does all the time. His research is that he's been published. He helps build companies on, that whole immunology thing, biotech. That's his thing. But if you were to ask him about, astronomy or maybe he has some working knowledge of like the physicsy stuff like that, and I wouldn't put it past him because he's really, really brilliant. But he wouldn't be considered an expert in astronomy, and he would not speak from a point of an expert position because his knowledge is hyper focused in the one thing. And that's the goal. That's the goal of grad school. That's the goal of your job. That's the goal of your work. You're hyper focused on a thing. You can have working knowledge of some other things, but you won't claim to be an expert on that unless that's your job, Oh, man. So it's like the majority, even though I've done research in cancer, I've done research in genetics, I've done research in other things. My job is science education, primarily focused in chemistry. But I do have a post-grad degree in science education. I've done research in that. That's my current job right now. I've worked in industry, but my other master's is in chemistry and analytical chemistry. So instrumentation. So I could speak from a point of expertise having had a post-grad degree because you're super hyper focused in a particular field. So I could speak from an expert position on instrumentation to a degree, but not nearly as much as somebody who, has done that for 30 years. So there you go. I've taught. How long have I taught now? Well, technically speaking, I've taught a long time, and I've educated ages from preschool all the way through adult. Preschool, grade school, high school, in college. Currently it's college. So, and I'm loving my job. I love my job. It's so much fun. And I've streamlined and made a lot of things efficient about it. So I get to just really dive in and help my students and spend a lot of times perfecting the way that I deliver content. So it's a lot of fun. So I can speak on, this is my experience when dealing with students and the things that they need. And I get feedback from them. What helps you? Thank you, Tamara. I'm pretty well liked for the most part, but some people don't like me. And that's okay. So, I'm not a 3-test professor. You can't take 3 tests in my class and pass just on that. You have to do the work, and I have to see that you've done the work. You get graded on your work. You get graded on quizzes. You get graded on exams, and you get graded on homework, and you get graded on labs. I have to see your work, and I need evidence that you've mastered this content, not just in, I can take a test. You leave my class, you're going to learn something. And that's a bit different. And that's not everybody's bread and butter. Not everybody likes that. Some people want to just be able to show up for a test, pass, and go. But that doesn't prove to me that you've learned anything. You might just know how to take a test. So when it's online, that's where the challenge is. And that's what the challenge has been for the pandemic. How do I know somebody actually mastered this content and didn't just spend X amount of time looking stuff up? Well, I make it very difficult to look stuff up while you're taking one of my tests. 1. 2, you have to show me what you've been doing. Have to see your homework. So yeah, you might have cheated on your homework, but you still had to get it done. Might have cheated on your quiz, but you still had to get it done. Maybe you cheated on your labs, but you still had to get it done. Maybe you cheated a little bit on your exams, but you still had to get it done. But the quizzes and the exams are timed, so you have a very short period of time to answer. So, I mean, that's, to me, I like multiple forms of assessment, and that puts all of the responsibility on the students for showing me what they know, which is exactly what professors should do, in my opinion. It's my job to be there to help them learn. That's my job. And to look at this body of evidence and go, did they pass? That's my job. What kind of grade do they get? I even give extra credit opportunities, which is super rare for like other professors. Hey, Nate, how you doing? So when you come to my class, and I'm teaching 2 summer classes right now, and it's rigorous because it's a lot of work. But I also help my students develop a study schedule. I show them what they can use, like graphic organizers. I'm like, this is how you can link concepts together. This is how you can go through and connect the dots between this. As you go through and you watch the videos that I post, as you go through and do this, you need to do these steps here. If you don't understand something, I have a Google Voice number they can text me on. They don't have my phone number, but only my students have that number. So they can text me and say, I'm really having a hard time and my phone isn't going off all the time. I can just check it. So I'm like, you're not bothering me if you text me at 3 a.m. having a panic attack, because I won't see it until I get up. So it's fine. My phone's not going off. And so they do that. I'm like, okay, let's have some office hours and help you sort it out. So, but most of the stuff online is graded online because I've already set it up that way to where it's automatically graded. I do like the Google Voice number, Nate. It's been very useful, and only my students have it. Now, my colleagues have my actual phone number. So when I get a text from my boss, I'm like, oh, I need to go and look at this right now. But the Google Voice is great because they can hit me up there, and only my students have it. Man, let's catch up on the chat some. Dinah. Hey, Dinah, how you doing? My biochem instructor would not meet with students or take questions. Only the TAs were available. I don't have TAs because I'm at a teaching institution, not a research institution. We can do research there if we want to, but we're not required to do research for our job. So the professors there are fully invested in the success of the students. So that's really great. Let's see. Only the lazy. Trust me, educators back in the day, like my mom, hated standardized testing for judging knowledge. Oh my gosh. When I was a high school teacher, half of my evaluation was based on a single test. Half of it. 50% of my evaluation was based on a single test. So all I needed to do was have a kid get in a car wreck the day of the test, kids not eat breakfast, get in a fight with the parents, get in a fight with, their significant others or their friends. And then, I actually had one of my highest performing students get in a car wreck right before their biology end of course exam. That was state mandated. And what I'm going to do, say, hey, don't worry about that. It's going to be fine. Please think about biology the whole time you're taking this test. And then I had students who wouldn't eat breakfast. And so I would show up with freaking cereal bars and juice boxes and gum and say, y'all gonna eat breakfast today? Well, I'm not hungry. I don't care. Eat this. Pick one, eat it, and get a juice box. So I would make my students eat something before my test. And they always had my biology end of course exam on a Friday after math was taken and history and all of this other stuff. So my students were exhausted by Friday. So they're exhausted, probably didn't eat anything. Some of these kids, parents beat them all the time. And I'm like, half of my evaluation is based on this one test. That does not assess knowledge accurately. Oh, it's so frustrating. Well, thank you, Tamara. That's true. You can't please everyone, but you're a very happy and great energy person, and you're making sure they know what they're doing. Yes, I'm trying. And I really like the institution where I'm at. It is a community college, but I don't care. It's not Harvard. It's not Princeton. Who cares? I work with a population of diverse students where 70% are poverty line. They don't know how to study science. They don't know. They've had like diverse backgrounds. Some of them, or most of them, are marginalized groups, and they've come from an education background that didn't meet their needs. So I don't, I like what I do. It's super fulfilling, and I get to help people go from poverty to prosperity. It's super exciting and wonderfully rewarding, and I love what I do. So, yes. And I don't think people realize just how many students go to community college to knock out a lot of their prerequisites before they hop over to med school. A lot of students do that. And where I live, your first 2 years of college are free if you go to a community college. They pay for that because they're trying really hard to get people post-secondary education. So, that's super important. And I've had kids right out of high school come to my classes, and I've had grandparents who were raising their grandkids, who had full-time jobs that were trying to broaden their education, to try to get more pay, who were joining like a particular program. We have a lot of medical students, whether it's MLTs or nurse practitioners. We have an actual nursing school, pre-med, pre-pharmacy. We have a lot of medical students that come through our program. And so, and they're the marginalized groups. And so we do what we can. So yeah, it's awesome. I like it. I really like my job. In the pandemic, one of the things that was really awesome about my institution, there's so much concern that people would quit taking classes. And we did have a drop in enrollment. And as we switched online, that was a challenge with chemistry. We had a drop in enrollment. We switched to online. But what they did, instead of letting go or, laying off teachers or instructors, professors, we all just took like a small pay cut. We didn't want any professors gone. We didn't want a lot of our staff gone. So we took a college-wide pay cut so that way people could still have jobs. And I was happy to do that. I was okay. I wasn't going to spend money on gas. I wasn't leaving my house. So rather than lose a lot of staff, just everybody took a small pay cut so we could continue to work and make money. Man, I don't know that I would ever want to go to Harvard or any place like that. My goodness. There was one professor at one institution that I went to that came from Yale. I don't know what he was doing. Wasn't very good at the professor thing. I'm going, did you just pick the first job that they offered you? It wasn't like, yeah. I actually challenged my professors because I went back as an adult and I completed my education as an adult. And if I didn't understand something, I made my professors explain it to me. And that made me not very popular with certain professors. Don't necessarily recommend that to you to do in every case because some of them will blackball you. But you just do the best you can, you do the best you can. Oh my goodness. All right. Let's see. I was going to talk about Loki. Guys, so my lecture on Thursday. Yes, it was Thursday. I was talking about spontaneous versus non-spontaneous reactions. And I use Loki, like delta G is Gibbs free energy and delta S is entropy, chaos. And I was like, if you have an increase of Lokis, that means chaos, right? An increase of entropy, which is a bunch of Lokis. You're going to have a lot of spontaneity. I love the Loki stuff because that's one thing that I adore about Marvel. Stan Lee was a huge fan of science. And a lot of the Marvel stuff you can pull and use in a lecture. So in my lecture on Thursday, when we were talking about thermodynamics and how we measure entropy and that sort of thing and how it affects chemical reactions, whether they're spontaneous or not spontaneous. If you have an increase in energy, or not energy, entropy, if you have an increase in entropy, the change in entropy is positive, then it's going to be a spontaneous reaction. So if you have an increased number of Lokis, going to have a lot of spontaneity. Decreased number of Lokis, not as much spontaneity. It's going to be non-spontaneous. If you're dropping the number of Lokis, less spontaneity. So it's not a spontaneous reaction. So it's always fun to be able to pull out, Marvel characters, at least for the youngins, and then people my age, the Gen Xers. You just never know. Oh my gosh. But I just want to throw that out there. Marvel's great about doing all the sciencey things. So much fun. And you can use that for different lectures when you're talking about science. Let me see. What else do we want to talk about, guys? What do you think? We've got... I'm trying to see what else there was. We talked about like the terror pigs last week and the burning ocean. Have there been any other natural disasters that we're concerned about? Let me see. Don't like eating greens. Blame it on brassica domestication. Huh. That might be interesting. Flooding. All right. Let's talk about flooding. We were already talking about climate science anyway. I need to fix my website, guys. I actually do have a website, but it's acting crazy. It's ScientistMel.com. ScientistMel.com. You can check it out there, but I think I need to renew the registration or something. I've been so busy, guys. And also, smash that like button. Smashing like buttons are a great way of showing how much you care. Okay. Just New York flooding like it's Hurricane Sandy again. Man. All right. So let's see. Flooding. New York flooding. Wasn't there, didn't they flood in the subway? All right. So let's have a look at this. Let me share my screen. And I'm going to share the audio if I can. And we got an ad going on. I'm going to hide the chat really quick. So, all right. So here's some flooding.
Wading through waist-deep water in a New York City subway station.
Don't do that.
Several similar scenes around the city. News 4's Phil Lipoff is in Washington Heights right now with Ann.
Okay, I want to go back. Okay, I want to take a look at that. Go away. Why is this up here? NBC, I'm not going to do stuff for you like this. This is annoying. Okay, here we go. This is what I need. We're going to do the Twitters. Don't do this. Oh my goodness. Why is the subway still running if it's flooded? Why is the subway still running if it's flooded? That water is so nasty. Flood water. Flood water has you don't know what's in it. It could be feces, could be, urine. It could be other bodily fluids like blood. This is all washing through. You could have all kinds of different stuff in there, whether it's different chemicals, toxic chemicals, and trash. I think, also you got these folks Where's the dude? Where's the dude? There was a dude that had the potato sack approach.
He's hopping in a trash bag.
Hopping in a trash bag. They're
trash
just
bag boys. He's hopping in a trash bag.
why? Like, oh my goodness.
Don't fall.
That's not gonna work. And these people are just standing around laughing at him. I think it's okay to call in sick to work that day. You don't go in deeper than your orifices, Mr. Shadow Kitty. Isn't that the truth? Oh my gosh. What in the world? Okay, let's look at this one. Little pixelated. But that's all right. Got better. It starts out pixelated, then it gets better. Look at this. You would think that they would just shut down the subway for like a few days or something. Why are people doing this? And I mean, hold on. That's not what I meant to do. We are not ready for climate change. No, we're not. Look at this. Why are you running the subways? Okay, so this was going on a couple days ago. So this was posted 2 days ago, July 8th. I don't, CBS, you make me nuts. Look at this. New York is flooding. How is that? Okay. I'm worried about the people who are videoing this. Did they get out? Yeah, so this is like 2 days ago. New York is flooding. There were also reports of downed trees and power lines in Monmouth County, which was among multiple counties to have a severe thunderstorm. Y'all can't read that. There we go. Which was among multiple counties to have a severe thunderstorm warning issued during the evening. Video from a Ring doorbell camera showed the destructive winds that accompanied some of the storms as items on a porch and lawn were left strewn about after a strong gust. Okay, well, let's have a look at this. Oh my gosh. Okay, so that's scary stuff. See, one thing about social media. Hey, Donald, how you doing? You got hail. When are we going to see people going around saying, the end is coming, the end is coming? New York, what did you guys do? Are you experiencing all the plagues of Egypt right now? My goodness. All of the plagues of Egypt. Holy hail, Batman. Oh, wow. Hail the size of quarters. Hey, August. How you doing? Let's see. That's a picture. That's not a video. Current Harlem River. Wow. Guys. Oh, you can't drive in it that deep. They're going to get stuck. They're going to get stuck. You can't drive in that deep. I was like going to a free comic book day once where I live. And it was flooding to where I wasn't certain how I'd get back home because nearly every single road to get back to my house was washed out. And was tempted to do this. Don't do this. There's a whole lot of stuff. I mean, just find another way. Oh my God. Oh. Look at that. That's so scary. Oh my goodness. So this is New York's NBC reporting. Oregon Trail taught me never to ford the river. That's right. I always died of dysentery or starvation. It was one of the two. I never made it through Oregon Trail in school. Oh my goodness. So there we go. Flash floods. Let's see if there's anything about flooding and climate change. Let's see what science has to say. I'm going to open that link in a new tab. So this is what I do. When I go through, when I'm like, okay, what do I want to know about flooding and climate change? What is there available? Usually, first thing you do is scholarly articles for flooding and climate change, and I can pull that up. And I like Google Scholar because you can pick your time frame. Let's go with the most recent since 2020, or you can do a custom range. Let's say 2019. All right. You want something that's 5 years or less when you're looking for studies associated with such things, because it's going to have the most up-to-date information. Reviews, articles are great, particularly if you're trying to find out what overall is the latest information. And see, you're going to have higher probability of compound flooding from precipitation and storm surge in Europe under anthropogenic climate change. And it's free. And it lets you know. Oh, I can read this one. And this has been cited 83 times. So you can kind of see a good idea of what's going on. Let me click on that. This is this is in subtropical areas. View full text. Synoptic weather conditions are driving extreme events. So we can go through and kind of get some of the latest information associated with that direct from journals and articles such as that. And we can also, let's see, NRDC. Let's see. The National Guard. Alrighty. Flooding and climate change. See, they have big giant pictures like that and then tiny words. Like, come on, guys, really? Flood accumulate. Well, I know what a flood is. Flooding and climate change, everything that you need to know. Well, what is what I need to know? Floods are the most common and among the most deadly natural disasters in the United States. All right. This is a bit more user-friendly when it comes to reading this stuff. As global warming continues to exacerbate sea level rise and extreme weather, our nation's floodplains are expected to grow by approximately 45% by century's end. And I go, where'd you get that information, National Guard? Let me see. FEMA. Pretty reputable source there. AECOM, conducted by the Climate Change Study for FEMA to analyze potential long-term implications of climate change on the NFIP. The climate change impact assessment includes all 50 states as well as consideration of the U.S. territories. So, I meant to copy this. So I'll copy this and put this in the chat if you guys want to have a look. So here, the impact of climate change and population growth on the National Flood Insurance Program. Hey, this is going to start costing us money for flood insurance, guys. I don't have to have flood insurance where I live because I don't live in a floodplain. But if you do, you might want to move and move at least double the distance away from where the floodplains are. So, summary of economic findings. The total number of NFIP insurance policies may increase by approximately 80% by 2100. The number of riverine policies may increase by about 100%, and the number of coastal policies may increase by approximately 60%. The average loss cost per policy may increase approximately 50% by the year 2100. Oh my goodness. That's not good, guys. Oh my goodness. Yikes. So what does that mean? What does all this mean? Essentially, what's happening here, because of global warming, because of the fact that the ice caps are melting, that's having a domino effect on the rest of the world. Our oceans are rising. So the more liquid water we have going on there, it's going to raise the sea level, which will increase all of the risks of flooding. According to one study, approximately 41 million U.S. residents are at risk from flooding along rivers and streams. Let's have a look. Woo! We got a video. So let's see.
Hello, I'm Oliver Wing from the University of Bristol and flood mapping organisation Fathom.
He's very quiet.
Recent advances in computational capacity have paved the way for flood hazard modelling
So this is from Bristol.
Spatial scales, taking advantage of high-resolution, large-scale data sets, most notably the US Geological Survey's topography and river gauge data. We have produced flood hazard maps of the entire conterminous United States at 30 meters resolution.
Oh, wow.
In a separate analysis, these have been validated against flood inundation data from the US government.
So this is from Bristol University.
Our large-scale approach can largely replicate these local engineering-grade studies.
Oh, that's not nice
FEMA
looking.
is the government agency charged with producing national flood maps to enforce the National Flood Insurance Programme. Their maps constitute a mosaic of local level assessments across the country, but crucially do not cover it in its entirety. Alongside areas where they admit no assessment has taken place, FEMA tend to ignore smaller headwater catchments in their analyses also. Using census-based population data from the Environmental Protection Agency, disaggregated
Okay.
onto 30
So essentially, the FEMA study has left out some of the smaller branches off from the major rivers and streams, which will also be affected, is what this is saying essentially. So they were looking at the major rivers and streams and not necessarily even the smaller ones that branch out from that. Okay. Okay, I gotcha.
meter grid based on land cover data, we find that almost 41 million Americans live within the 1 in 100-year floodplain. Using the FEMA-derived 100-year floodplain to make that calculation, we find only 13 million people are situated there, an underestimate of over threefold with respect to our flood maps.
Oh my goodness.
Further to population counts, we look at the value of buildings situated in hazardous areas. Intersecting the 100-year
Y'all, if you live near a river, you're gonna be in trouble in 100 years. Possibly less than, maybe less than that.
Data sourced from the FEMA National Structure Inventory, we
Ah,
find that $5.5 trillion worth of assets are exposed.
five
When we
and a
apply
half
depth-damage
trillion.
relationships based on data from the US Army Corps of Engineers, we find that the expected damage from a single 1 in 100-year flood event everywhere comes to $1.2 trillion. This estimate of risk does not constitute a loss expected from any real event or within a certain frame of time. A 100-year flood would never hit the whole country simultaneously, but it does give some indication of.
So he's also saying here that the 100-year flood you wouldn't have it hit all at once necessarily, but it could hit in different parts. So if there was just one, we're looking at total assets exposed, $5.5 trillion. But one event, if there was just one event, according to their numbers, it would wipe out about 1.2 trillion and approximately how many people? Let me see. Where was it? It was back here. It's not letting me. Oh, crap. Okay, so
But it does give some indication of the
it's not
potential
letting me jump back where I
to
want
those
to go.
exposed assets.
Like 1.3 million people would be affected.
Future socioeconomic projections from the Environmental Protection Agency's ICLAS project indicate what the US
2050.
might look like throughout the coming century in a demographic and developmental sense.
30 years.
Such
Okay.
data permit us to examine whether future developments
80
are
years.
expected to be in hazard-prone areas. Under the most likely scenario in this analysis, SSP2, we find that the 41 million people currently on the 100-year floodplain rises by 50% to just over 60 million by 2050.
So according to these numbers, with the Bristol taking into consideration all of those other little streams that branch off from the rivers and stuff, the smaller ones, they say that it's 60 million people are exposed, not 41 million. Super yikes, man. There we go.
By 2100, we expect this figure to touch 75 million.
Oh.
Crucially, exposed.
They're saying we expect this to touch 75 million people. We think it's this much. This is just America, guys. But hey, climate change isn't real, says the people who are going to be floating down their street. And they're already doing that. They're doing that with trash bags in New York. This isn't real. It's funny, guys. The subway is flooded. Look, I'm going to try to hop through and go through this nasty water in these plastic bags, garbage bags. Oh my goodness. Don't do that, guys.
Population increases as a proportion of total population. Currently, 13% of the total US population live within the 100-year flood zone. By 2100, we project this to be just over.
Okay, so now we're taking into consideration population density and population as it increases. 13% of the US. Now, keep in mind, they're like, oh, 13%, that's not that much. 13% of millions and millions and millions of people is millions of people. Okay. 16% is still millions of people, right? So when you take into consideration population growth, we're going to be in trouble. Ooh.
16%. In dollar terms, the $5.5 trillion of exposed assets is expected to be just shy of $10 trillion by 2100.
Okay. So when you consider if we don't build anything else, it's 5.5 trillion. But if we build anything else, it's going to be 10 trillion. Hey, low energy videos. So this is what we're looking at. Current assets are 5.5 trillion. But we're going to build more stuff because humans, right? We're going to make more people because humans. So we're looking at 10 trillion worth of assets that will be exposed to flooding in the 100-year plane.
To summarise, this study finds that the US population living on the floodplain has been vastly underestimated to date, and that assets equating in value to roughly 1/3 of the current US GDP are situated on the 100-year floodplain. Without even accounting for the effects of climate change on flood hazard, we project that flood exposure and risk will increase dramatically throughout this century, based purely on socioeconomic change.
Yeah. This is not good news for this. So I'll post a link to this article. They use computer models and take into consideration population growth as well as the streams that branch off from the smaller rivers and streams that branch off from the main rivers and streams, and consider with the current growth of population, how many people will be affected, as well as the increase in assets. So I posted the link to this in the chat so you can have a look at it and dig back through. Not too happy about this, guys. Can I just look at it? Thank you. Okay, so they took it a step further. So this kind of goes through with what the exposure and risk is according to FEMA versus what they did. FEMA only looked at what we have currently, not what we would have, as far as property damage and all that down the road, as well as people, So they took into consideration the growth as well as development and how those particular things would be affected. Oh, this is scary stuff. So yeah, I posted for the FEMA climate change report. I've also posted for the Bristol research that they've done, Bristol University, and how they estimate it's going to be way worse than that. You have a video. I like that. I think they really need videos to go along with articles because that is just awesome. We need you to do this, scientists. Post videos along with your articles talking about it. What's going on. Break it down for the Gen Pop, man. I mean, I can follow this if I sat down and was breaking it down and looking at it. I could follow it, but I mean, the general population doesn't necessarily have the tools in the toolbox in order to break down information like this. Ah, it's nuts, guys. Pull the chat back up. Let me try to catch up on what everybody thinks about this. We're coming up on 2 hours. Woo! I'm behind on the chat. Going back here. First message back on the freaking chat overlay, critical cripple. Shame on you. I am glad you are okay, Mr. Shadow Kitty, that you and your family are all right. Oh my goodness. Hello, Penultima. I didn't say hi to you earlier, and I apologize for that, but I did read a comment out. Oh man, it would be terrible to be caught in a mudslide, huh, Bill Portley? How are you doing, Bill Portley? I don't think I said hi to you, and I apologize for that. August says, I wonder how bad it actually has to be to get before the wackos start admitting to climate change issues. I don't know. We already have it now, and people aren't doing anything. They're like, oh, it'll never happen to me. That's what they say about the COVID, the Rona. Does half of the US have to be completely submerged? I don't know. I think once people start seeing how expensive everything gets, that's when they're going to notice. Even the people who have lost family members to COVID are like, I'm still not getting the vaccine. But, once it starts costing people money, and they can't feed their families, or their heating and air conditioning is through the roof, or they don't have flood insurance because they don't live in a floodplain. And oh my God. And then all of a sudden their houses are flooded. They're like, oh my goodness. Oh boy. It's nuts. Water World. I went back, speaking of Kevin Costner films, I went back and watched Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves. Alan Rickman is a treasure. And I really miss Alan Rickman. Oh my goodness. I'm going to start storing dry land in a jar for future currency. Just like Jack Sparrow, huh? I got a jar of dirt. I got a jar of dirt. Oh my gosh. This is so weird. How close to a river do you need to be? Well, they say the floodland is going to expand by 45%, with probably more than that. It'll be more than that, according to that Bristol study. So I would say look up where the floodland is in your area and consider it's going to increase by 50% beyond that. Oh my goodness. Goodbye, Southern Illinois, says Mr. Shadow Kitty. That's just America, isn't it, Sandy? It's just America. Ah, it's so scary. And then Penultima says, on that note, the UK in 2019 had excessive rainfall that resulted in the wettest February since records began in 1766 in England and Wales. But that's not real, Penultima. It's not real. Didn't you know that? It's not real. Isn't the water table in Bangladesh growing so high it is forcing people to abandon their homes, even the ones built on stilts? Maybe. Let's look at that low energy videos. People in Bangladesh. Let's see. Let me try to spell Bangladesh correctly. Abandoned homes due to flooding. So in 2019, this is what I found, aljazeera.com. That's the most current. Hold on. No. July 28th, 2020. So that was last year. Flood hit rural poor feel abandoned, driven out of their homes. Over 6,000, which, okay, I need to check my news sources. BaltimoreSun.com. New Age. New Age. I'm not going to read an article from New Age. Don't know what that is. Baltimore Sun might be more reputable than a New Age article. All right, so this is what I have found. A quarter of Bangladesh is flooded. Millions have lost everything. So let me share what I've got here. And I'll put this link in the chat. Oh my goodness. Ads. By the way, have you seen that we have all these ads? Just in case you need to know, we have ads. Yes, you have ads. Thank you. I do not want a new truck. Millions have lost everything. So this was last year, July 31st, 2020. So I imagine it's probably going on again. I don't care about Baltimore current rains. All right. So torrential rains have submerged at least 1/4 of Bangladesh. You guys can't see that. Let me turn off the chat. Sorry. Got to turn off the chat for a second. And let me blow this up a bit. It's noon, and so they're practicing the tornado sirens. How apt for our climate change discussion right now. Torrential rains have submerged at least 1/4 of Bangladesh, washing away the few things that count as assets for some of the world's poorest people. Their goats and chickens, houses of mud and tin, sacks of rice stored for the lean season. Oh my goodness. So they lost other food. Now keep in mind, this is from last year. I haven't found anything. Let me see if I can find something from 2021. Abandoned homes. Okay. Displaced 5 million people in Bangladesh. So here's one from the New York Times, which is probably behind a paywall because they're jerks. Was this 2021? Yep. It was more notable as it came during the worst global pandemic. Storms, floods, wildfires, and to a lesser degree. Conflict uprooted 40.5 million people around the world in 2020. So lots of things are causing. 2 ferocious hurricanes. This was the most active Atlantic hurricane season on record. That's what I want, the EPA stuff. Oh, no, you cited yourself. Oh, my God. Why would you cite yourself? I want the actual paper, you jerks. New York Times makes me so mad sometimes. Here's an article where we talk about the study. Give me the freaking study. There's a reason why I stopped subscribing to the New York Times, because of crap like this. You just go on a large rabbit hole, and I just want the study. Jerks. I just want the study. Okay. So this was last year. Okay, let's see. Okay, authorities in Bangladesh. So yeah, we're still there. It looks like in May they were having some issues. So yeah, it's not fun. We're having some major issues here. Man, start evolving gills. You're right, August. My New Orleans is already suffering, says Halcyon. I'm sorry. Man. Ah, low energy videos. First time I see your room in detail and a lot of nerd stuff. Yes, a lot of nerd stuff. I also have with me Nina the science doggo. If you want, we can give her a moment. She's my supervisor. She sleeps on the job often. I've tried to talk with HR about it, but they're like, what do you want me to do? This is her job. And she also demands cuddles regularly. She's right there next to my Kevin Smith shoes. Those are Kevin Smith shoes, those Vans over there. She's about the size of one of them. And I have a lot of Funko Pops over there. It's a Firefox or a red panda, But she's hanging out by my Kevin Smith shoes and my Doc. Hey, Neen. She's so little. But there you go. Science Doggo is super small and not large at all. That's right. She's got really bad separation anxiety. I might have to take her to the college when we start having in-person class again. So I'll have to be one of those women with a dog purse. I never thought I would be one of those women that has a dog purse, but I guess I'll have one. Dog purse, baby. But yeah, Kevin Smith shoes. Yeah, he signed these. Melody, I feel we're Twitter married. Kevin Smith. These are his actual shoes that were on his feet when he was doing stuff and things. I have lots of his stuff. Red State poster where he says, I effing love you, but he actually writes the F word out there. Melody, I effing love you. When I met him in New Orleans and later hung out with him in his living room in Hollywood, was on a podcast with him. It was pretty awesome. It's pretty cool. I'm going to throw that around. Have I smelt them? I did not smell his shoes, but there were dog hairs in them. And so I assumed that was Shecky. Yeah. Oh gosh. I don't know. Just everything's so sad. Do they smell like weed in 90s angst? Yes. So in 2011, I appear on, he talks about me in a couple podcasts, and I appear on one Jay and Silent Bob Get Old when he was at the Lovitz Theater. I actually went on stage, and I don't know if that episode is still available or not, but he talks about me in Red State of the Union. And the sound bite was my ringtone for a long time because he was talking about my Twitter handle. At the time, I had a different Twitter handle. And he said, we all need a Melody in your life like that. Yeah, I know her. She's wonderful. She's fantastic. We all need a Melody in your life. And I'm just like, oh my God. And I was like screaming through my living room and yelling and running around, not knowing how to process that he said that about me. I was like, I love Kevin Smith. Nicest freaking man. Genuinely cares about other people. Oh, boy. Man, I'm still catching up. Hey, AW. How you doing? Thank you for the super chat, Critical Cripple. Konica colors are calling me. I don't know what that means. I probably said something really naughty, knowing Critical Cripple, and he just made me say something naughty or something. I don't know. Okay, thank you for the super chat. All right. I do have a ton of nerd stuff, Brainius Balky. Thank you. I do. Save us, Kevin Costner. I don't know if you can save us. Mel and the science dog purse. I'm going to feel so weird having one, guys, because I never thought I'd be one of those people. I never thought I would be one of those people carrying around a dog purse. Kevin Smith. Yep. Oh my gosh. Yeah, he had a Widowmaker heart attack too. Good thing it was caught early on. Oh my goodness. And then Alan Rickman passed from cancer. Oh man, that was really hard to take. That was super hard. Severus Snape is like my favorite Harry Potter character. The only one that matters, in my opinion, is oh my goodness. So we've talked about a lot of stuff today. Nina's turned back around, so we'll have one more look at Neen. There she is. Boop. Can I boop the snoot? She won't let me. Can I boop the snoot? Boop, boop. Scratching the head. Like, for real. Look how small she is. She is like the size of this shoe. I mean, for scale. Kevin Smith's feet are bigger than her. She's a good science doggo, but she's super needy sometimes. What you doing, Neen? She's like, I want to get down now. Can I get down now? All right, Neen. It's time to end the show anyway, so. All right. Yeah, I don't feel like giving money to J.K. Rowling either, so I don't. I just have the stuff that I got before I found out what a transphobe she was. I'm just like, nope, done with that. Done with that. I will enjoy the things that I already have. So there you go. I guess I'll read from Mr. Rogers and then we'll sign off. We've talked about climate change a lot. We talked about how they're going to genetically modify agriculture crops to use less water and to be more resilient with the trying times and to also capture more CO2. Let me see. I'm going to finish. You went down now, Neen? Okay, I'm going to let you down. She started going. Can you say bye to everyone? You came over here demanding attention. Okay, I'm going to let you down so you can go do your thing. She's like, I'm done. All right. Let me find a good quote. All right. So this is the world according to Mr. Rogers. This is We Are All Neighbors from We Are All Neighbors. Whether we're a preschooler or a young teen, a graduating college senior, or a retired person, we human beings all want to know that we're acceptable, that our being alive somehow makes a difference in the lives of others. Mr. Rogers. I have a Funko of Mr. Rogers over here too. So one more time for the people in the back. Whether we're a preschooler or a young teen, a graduating college senior, or a retired person, we human beings all want to know that we're acceptable, that our being alive somehow makes a difference in the lives of others. Yes. Okay. So I'm going to sign off and say thank you guys for being here. It was awesome to have another stream again. I'll be back here next Saturday, 10 a.m., talking about whatever's going on with science in the world and the news. So you always make each day special for me. You know how? By just your being you. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.